we are back. And Jeff, what are you still doing on the podcast?
Yeah, what
That's
am I
the
still
first
doing filming a
question.
podcast, right?
Yeah.
Well, today's November 8th. My son's due date is November 11th. So really it's any day now. That's why we're filming at home. I want to be close
Yes.
to my fiance. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you before, but we're having a home birth. So Jeff is going to be delivering the baby. Probably.
Who's buying groceries? Are you just Uber and Eats all your food now?
Oh no, we still can go out and worst case scenario, we got Instacart.
Right.
Fortunately, we live pretty close to, Superstore and Walmart, so we still have options.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, but for pregnancy, it's actually recommended that you do as much regular activity as possible. So like, go for walks and things like that. We had a midwife tell us that like when she was pregnant, she actually went for a hike. Um, and she was able to do that. I think
Interesting.
one thing is you just have to make sure you're close to a restroom because pregnant women do have to go to the restroom a lot more than non-pregnant women because you can imagine, right? There's like a baby in there that's like this big. They're
Yeah.
constantly pressing up against your organs and your bladder and stuff. So anyways, that's a little bit of fun information for you.
Okay. Wait. Before we move on to the podcast, the last thing before this pregnancy, I know you've been reading books, but like what happens if it's past the due date?
uh,
I'm actually just super curious. Like, what, like, do you, especially because you guys are doing home birth. So
well,
I
if you
know
want
that
to get into the
sometimes
nitty
they
gritty of
kind of
this,
push it out.
and anybody who's a listener who maybe have a weak stomach don't really listen to this, but there's a way that you can manually kind of get the process going, and of course you can imagine it involves inserting a couple
Oh,
of fingers into the area,
uh-huh.
and you kind of just
Well,
I'm not
okay.
gonna say
All
the word again,
right.
but
With
you can
that
use your
being
imagination. Let's get on into the podcast. So today is November 8th. As you guys can see from the title, we are shooting the market update for October 2023.
Mhm.
Um, Joe, how was your month?
Month was good. Was busy. Interesting enough. Got most of the deals done earlier in the month. The
Mm,
latter part of October was slow
mhm.
to a point. I mean, I still do all my work and stuff like that, but I don't know if you noticed, but I've been working out twice a day. One's in the morning and one's at night, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of got a little bit more time, which of course we'll kind of talk about in the podcast why that's the reason. But overall, still a decent month. Like it's not what the news article or they're starting to talk about. Like I
Mhm.
think you too as well. Like both of us, we had a pretty decent month for October. How about you?
Can't complain about October, but I do want to say that, generally when people pay more attention to their health, sometimes it means that they are preparing to have a baby. So they want to make sure that they're in peak physical condition.
Oh
So
no,
are you
no,
trying
no,
to hint something?
no, not definitely not. I read on just on a side thing. We keep getting off real estate, but there was a side thing. The reason why I've been working out a little bit more is because I was listening to a podcast and they're saying that there's actually more millionaires in the world than there is people with six packs. Not like six packs due to hunger, but like they actually wanted a six pack. And they were saying that with a six pack, the reason why it's so rare is because it creates you need high commitment, right? In
Hmm.
terms of your food, in terms of exercising and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, not saying that I'm a millionaire, but when I heard it, I kind of want to take that as a challenge,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of the reason why. And plus, who doesn't want to lose, who doesn't want to shed like a couple pounds here and there, right? To
Hmm.
look a little bit better. So yeah, that's the kind of the reason why I
Okay.
heard the podcast and I just want to take on the challenge.
Multi-purpose. If you guys are looking for a dedicated real estate agent, Joe Lee is your guy.
There we go. There we go. Thank you. But yeah, let's with that being said, anything that you want to add for your month in October in terms of real estate? I know that
No,
you'll be staying at home most of the time at the latter part of October because of the upcoming baby and stuff like
yeah,
that.
I would say from the calls that I've been making, a lot of people have been kind of sitting on the fence. Again, mainly due to the interest rate, but also because of the weather. Historically, this is a seasonal change for us. We were expecting a fall market. Did we get it? Well, please continue to listen and we'll talk about it. But yeah, October was pretty good for me. I'm happy about it. No complaints whatsoever.
Good, good. Okay. Well, with that being said, I think we have paint a good enough of a picture. Let's get it going. Let's start talking about our numbers, and then afterwards, as per the usual, we'll talk about our comments and stuff like that. So how to help our listeners be more in tune with the market because the market is changing. So with that being said, let's start off with sales activity. Now, for the month of October 2023, we had a total of 1,996 sales. That is a 3.7% increase from last year, October 2022, and is actually a 3.6% increase from September of 2023. Not the most exciting number because, as a quick reminder, the September sales numbers was 16.1% less than August, which was supposed to be the peak summer months. With 1,996 total sales, we are 29.5% below the 10-year average.
Not
big
pretty.
number. We'll talk about it in a bit, but Jeff, take it over with the price.
Yeah, in terms of the HPI price for October, we were sitting at $1,196,500. Please excuse me. Oh, it's the worst when you try to breathe and swallow at the same time and your saliva goes down your windpipe. Please excuse me.
I'm surprised you haven't coughed.
Yeah, now that's a 4.4% increase from October of 2022 and a 0.6% decrease from September of 2023. Now, does this mean that prices are falling all across the board? Not necessarily. Please stay tuned as we dissect this after. Now, Joe, back to you for inventory.
Let's do it. So inventory is, it's funny how a couple of months can really change, huh? Inventory on a monthly base. Last month, October, we had 4,664 new listings. That is a 15.4% increase from last year, and actually a 16.8% decrease from last month. Makes sense? We'll talk about it. But the important number that you want to know is that at 4,664 new listings, that is actually a 4.8% increase or above the 10-year average.
I wish we had like a celebrating button that we can go like Yahoo, because I feel like this is the first time since we've at least started filming, which is over a year now, where we've had above 10-year average inventory level.
Yep, it's true. It's true, definitely. And overall, we have 11,599 total homes that's listed, which is actually a 12.6% increase from October 2022. And listen to this, it is now 0.6% above the 10-year average. All right, that's a lot of information, key information. We'll talk about it once again, but Jeff, take it away with sales at active ratio and end it off with some rent info.
Perfect. Finally, we have a market update where we do have a rent report update as well, which is beautiful. In terms of sales to active ratio, overall for the month of October, we were sitting at 17.9%. Now, this is a 12.9% for detached homes, 20.9% for attached homes, and 21.5% for condos. In terms of rent, this is a very good news for renters. November rent continues its decrease, and average monthly rent went down by $44. In the city of Vancouver, an unfurnished unit dropped by 5.69%. And really, rent prices all across the board did fall for the month of October, with the exception of West Vancouver. Now, when we're looking at the ranking for most expensive one-bedroom unfurnished rental units in Canada, West Vancouver still takes the number one spot at $2,740, Vancouver at $2,670, North Vancouver at $2,623, and for the first time in over 12 months, White Rock was actually hit fourth in with $2,483. I think this is really good news, and one number that we really want to pay attention to is that the income to rent ratio for October is at 51.28%. 51.28. That's crazy.
That is, to be honest, I still feel like that's a little low. Like to actually what's realistically out there.
Yes.
I just talked to I guess like someone like client, I guess, that they're actually currently spending 70% of their income on rent. 70.
I'd be curious to know how they allocate the remainder 30% and like what is the dollar value of that 30%?
Well, I mean, if 70% on rent, I mean, you're probably down to like a grand,
Yeah.
and a bit
Does
left.
this client have a vehicle?
No, no vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
us. Yeah, that's
Okay.
why I was kind of like, I don't know, like maybe future potential clients.
Mhm.
Yeah, because of the situation that she's currently in, it's going to be a little while before she can actually enter the market.
Yeah.
But why I have kind of pushed her to talk to the right person to kind of get that ball started.
Mhm.
As you can imagine, not the easiest conversation. It just started off like a cold call, like what we generally do, and then it ended up going in a pretty dark path, the whole conversation.
That
But
sounds
that's why I said at 51.28%, sometimes I feel like that feels a little low.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think from the people that I've talked to, it's been a mixed bag. Some people are like, hovering around the 50%. Some people are very fortunate. They're only spending 30% on rent. And some people are maybe even like 80, 90% in rent, or like they're in the red every single month. And as they see their credit card debt just like pile on and pile on and pile on. But
Yeah, exactly.
let's do a little bit of a dive into the numbers. Like obviously, October was a very different change compared to September.
That doesn't take a data scientist to figure out what's happening
Mhm,
based on just the numbers that we've been talking about.
mhm,
Um, Overall, I guess I'll just put it this way: there is definitely more listings for people to choose,
mhm,
and listings are not going as quickly as before.
mhm,
And it's funny to say that because the total listing number from September, October, I would say is actually going up quite quickly. Jeff, do you
mhm.
still remember, like, when our total inventory, like, was about earlier this year or end of last year, at one point it dropped to like 7,000 active listings, like
Yep.
7,000 ish, almost 8,000. Now we're almost at 12,000. Like, boom, all
Mhm.
of a sudden there's like 5,000 more homes for sale. So
Yeah.
definitely the seller is really active.
Mhm,
And as what we're saying about the sales activities, it seems like the buyers are not as excited for this fall
mhm,
market. But
mhm.
before we start, input and talking about what we think, as per usual, Jeff, you want to kind of just tell everybody what Andrew Less, our economic directors from the real estate board, is talking about?
Of course, he always has a really great insight, and this is what he has to say about our current market. With properties coming to market at a rate roughly 5% above the 10-year seasonal average, there seems to be a continuation of the renewed interest on the part of sellers to participate in the market that we've been watching this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Counterbalancing this increase in supply, however, is the fact sales remain almost 30% below their 10-year season average,
Mm-hmm.
which tells us that demand is not as strong as we might expect this time of year. With more supply in the form of resale inventory and weaker demand in the form of slower sales, we've seen market conditions overall adjust towards more balanced conditions.
Mm-hmm.
It's noteworthy that multifamily segment remains more active than the detached segment at this time, Lee said. While the highest borrowing costs we've seen in over a decade continue to constrain affordability, a silver lining for buyers is that price increases have abated with these more balanced market conditions, meaning purchasing power is holding steady for the moment. Joe,
All
let's talk
right.
about it.
Let's do it. First of all, I think we need to bold the last sentence that he said. Guys,
Mhm.
don't believe what the media is telling you. Just like on the way up, it's the same on the way down. This is not the end of the world. This is a balanced market. Yes, a balanced market in Vancouver is rare, but this is definitely not the buyer's market.
Mhm.
Things are definitely still moving, but like we're saying, it is definitely taking a little bit more time, and definitely it's going to take a little bit more effort, right? So I mean, how should I say this? I guess Andrew is right that, and us included as well, is that we were, you remember during the summertime we were hoping, I was like, oh yeah, no, we'll just wait until the fall.
Yep.
It's gonna be more buyers, people are gonna come back from vacation. Yeah, so I guess one part of that is the seller thought that that was the case. But in reality, the buyers never came back. The buyers may be still on vacation. God knows, right? So you'll see that in September and October, we had a huge spike of listings, but the total sales activities for October and September is actually weaker than August, which was weaker than July. So I guess long story short, Andrew's totally right. The buyers just didn't come out to party this fall.
Yeah. I think like one more thing I would add to that is, you know, you have had to renew your mortgage or you've hit your trigger rate because you're on a variable. There were a lot of people that were in the same boat as you. So I'm pretty sure that everyone who did hit their trigger rate probably told at least 5 people that they're paying X dollar amount more per month. Do you think that would scare some potential buyers from wanting to take on a mortgage? Of course. I was just talking to someone when I was at basketball the other day. They bought a place in 2018 and they are scared right now for the amount of increase that their mortgage payments are month to month. And, you know, that would scare me too and deter me from entering the market unless you knew something that other people didn't.
Exactly. Right. So I guess another thing I wanted to say at this time is just because once again, the media has been starting to tell kind of the world, oh my God, you know, this is the end of the real estate market. This is the end of it. I'm starting to have clients that's literally calling me, it's like, is it time for lowball offers? So once again, that's why to start off this whole conversation, I just wanted to emphasize that we're on the balanced market, not on the buyer's market. Yes, when you were talking about price, it is indeed our HPI prices has indeed come down. But if you break it down a little bit based on product type, you'll see that it's not the same thing throughout every single type of homes, right? I'll give you a perfect example. We kind of broke it down. Last month for single family houses, we had 577 sales, which is actually a 0.7% decrease from last year. With the benchmark now being at 2,001,400, it's actually a 0.8% decrease from last month. I'll just repeat that. 0.8% decrease compared to last month, not last year, last month. Now for apartments, we had 1,044 sold. That's actually 4.9% more than last year. And right now our bench price for condos is 770,200, which actually is a 0.2% increase from last month. You can see where I'm trying to go with this, right? Now for townhouses, duplexes, there was 356 homes sold, which is actually 6.6% increase from last year. Now the benchmark prices for these duplexes, townhouses is at 1,100,500. That is actually a 0.2% increase from last month. Right. So what I'm trying to say is, if you are still in the market for condos, townhouses, and half duplexes, I'm sorry, like, I don't think the seller is ready to start taking it or looking at your lowball offers, because the math shows perfectly well that actually the prices has actually gone up for this kind of product type. However, because the detached house prices has gone down dramatically compared to last month, and obviously houses has more weight because your dollar volume is just higher, that actually pushes the whole HPI prices down. So that if you break it down like that, then you can understand, like, okay, what exactly is happening to the market. If you're shopping for houses, okay, maybe you could try some lowball offers because it's kind of, you know, the prices are coming down quite quickly. However, for condos and townhouses and half duplexes, once again, like I was saying, is that if you're trying to do a lowball offer, the seller is not going to care about you, honestly. Right? Because the market for condos, townhouses, and half duplexes is definitely still much stronger than single family houses.
I would say that, you know, that is still a bit of a generalization, because I have a personal experience where I was looking at a property. It was an older 1-bedroom condo, and they were listed for $648K in East Vancouver. They had a offer presentation on a Monday after a weekend of open houses. They got 0 offers.
Interesting.
And then 3 weeks before that, a unit on a lower floor, ground level, it sold for $668K, like $30K over their listing price. So I think it still determines, like, you know, what the condition of the home looks like, and also kind of luck of the draw.
That's the thing, because now there is definitely more listings out there than buyers, right? So like whichever, like it's like you said, because there's choices, and sometimes, and on top of that, because the buyer situation is different every single one of them, it
Hmm.
like the numbers are all over the place right now. Like you're
Yeah.
totally right. Like for example, I'll give you a perfect example. Someone that has their mortgage about to come up, their 120-day pre-approval about to come up, they're willing to spend a little bit more on a particular house because they have an urgency that they need to complete at a certain time, certain things, and they don't want to, have to reapply for way higher mortgage rates,
Well,
right?
of course, because they don't know what's going to happen in December. What if they do raise the rates and they're like, oh crap, like now I missed the boat.
Exactly. Those are the buyers that's willing to, because they have the urgency, they're willing to pay a little bit more, right? They're as long as it works, they're willing to pay for it. So they
Mm-hmm.
might be like, okay, you know what, seller, you know what, I'm okay with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some other ones where it's the seller that's a little bit more desperate than the buyers, then some of them are really like willing to kind of let it go at a lower price now, especially once again for single family houses. I just saw one I sold, I think it was it's in West Side. I think they took a $650,000 discount from their asking price.
Whew. So they lost money on that deal.
Who knows? Who knows, right? So
Yeah.
that's all I kind of wanted to say. It's kind of funny because, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's just kind of funny how I'm presenting that, and you're the sales and active ratio guy, right? So it kind of matches with what's happening with sales and active ratio, right, Jeff?
Yeah, you can look at it again. Just a reminder for houses in October, they're sitting at 12.9%, while the others are still above 20%. And hence why the price increase for attached and condos applies, but there is a decrease in pricing in houses.
Right, because don't forget, I think houses has not hit 20% on sales to active ratio for
I think two,
many
three
months now.
months.
I think it's like three months now, right? three
Yeah. So,
months. So
yeah.
what do we always say about sales to active ratio? If it's a pattern for a long period of time, then you can see that it does play around with the prices.
Yeah, and my personal feeling is that detached homes will probably continue to fall a little bit moving into November as well as December. But
Oh yeah,
that's just my guess.
and
Um,
yeah, no, it's true.
mhm.
But yeah, now that another one I want to quickly just spend a little bit of time. It's since we can talk about rental this time around. Like, what is your thought about this whole rental situation? Price, rental prices has come down, and what are your comments with that?
Okay, well, first of all, we have to pay a little bit of attention to it being the second consecutive month that rent prices have come down.
Yeah,
And immediately what comes to mind are two things. Number one is a seasonal adjustment. We talked about this in another podcast where, hey, I think the average price for a one-bedroom condo in the UBC area was like a crazy amount. Well, why? Well, it's the beginning of the fall season for school, so everyone is desperate to find housing.
yeah,
We had a big talk about that, and I think our most recent podcast, so you guys can go check it out. And people like to move in the summertime and not during winter, so there is
yeah,
a less of a pool of people looking to rent. Another thing is maintain the interest rate. So when they announced that the interest rates are going to be held at 5%, there were more people moving back into the buying pool, because what do we always say? People are not able to make a decision when they don't know what's going to happen in the future, or they feel like there isn't any consistency. Now,
yeah,
because that they announced that the interest rates weren't going to go up, it would drive a pool of buyers back into the mindset of, hey, I'd rather be paying my own mortgage than paying someone else's mortgage. Or, let's say maybe they had an experience where they were a renter and during a hot market, their landlord decided to sell, then they were homeless, and then they had to run into an issue where they couldn't find a home,
yeah,
things like that. These all came into play as to like why people would go back into purchasing instead of renting.
yeah.
Now, with a 51% income to rent ratio, how much more can people actually pay? Right? You have to like adjust to the market conditions. If people are already spending over half of their income on rent, are they going to be paying more? How could they pay more? They couldn't even if they wanted to.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. So it seems like, I think, first of all, I agree. The seasonal adjustment, that's definitely a thing. I mean, I was kind of giggling a little bit when you're talking about people like to move during the summer because, like, have you looked at outside? Imagine trying to move in this weather today. Like, it's
Mhm.
raining, it's wet, it's cold. Nobody likes to do that whatsoever.
Hey, it's
So,
still better than being in Toronto when it's like -2 right now, as we just heard. So, um,
I
Yeah, I would
don't know.
definitely
Yeah, go ahead.
monitor I was gonna say I definitely would monitor the rental rates and overall listing numbers for condos from now until let's say spring of 2024 to see the impact of the latest Airbnb news. And
Mhm.
how that's going to affect our inventory levels. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, you guys can check back into our news roundup and we'll do a deep dive on that. Um,
It sorry, the guy. It's funny. I was just saying, it's like I'm starting to see some listings from downtown. I'm talking about sales, not rental hotel sales.
yeah.
That when you look at it, I'm just like, this looks like Airbnb.
And then you
This
go
looks
check the
like it's
rental
like
restriction. You're like, oh, short-term rentals allowed.
yeah, and then because like I don't know if you noticed, like Airbnb, the host, like all the furnitures are like almost identical. So like you could like immediately like, oh, that's you got that from that place, struck to IKEA, what have you, and stuff like that. So I
Mm.
just thought that that's we're already starting to see it come to the market. And obviously, what's the biggest indication that this used to be Airbnb? We would like to sell it furnished.
Yeah, less headache for the seller, of course, when you're selling it furnished. I mean,
Exactly.
imagine selling each individual piece off Facebook Marketplace and then haggling and then like arranging for a meetup when you don't even live in the province. It's just like not what people really want to get to. So, are these new policies like really bringing a huge amount of inventory back into the market for local people? We'll see. How's that going to affect tourism? We'll also see.
Yeah, because it's going to be a little tight for tourism, that's for sure, with
Mhm.
this whole Airbnb thing. But yeah, I think we talked about Airbnb enough. I think this is the fourth continuous podcast that we talked about Airbnb, so I think people get it. Now,
Mhm.
before we move on, I know that at the end of the month, end of the podcast, we always like to talk about, oh, what are some of the advices that we give to buyers and sellers. But before that, though, I'm just going a little bit off script here. Is that I actually had quite a bit of people messaging me about what I meant, especially realtors actually, saying,
Mhm.
well, what I mean by, remember the last podcast I saying that it's probably best not to drop rates yet too
Yes,
quickly.
yes, until maybe, spring of 2025, you were saying.
Yeah. So I just wanted to quickly emphasize what that means. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm on the variable mortgage on my rental, and I would love to see the rents come down. I just wanted to clarify a little bit is that I'm not supportive of this high interest rate. I don't like the way that it was brought upon us. I think it's a
Mhm,
little bit quick. However, I'm just saying that now that we are in this stage right now with our economy, I just don't feel like dropping rates. What I basically okay. Let me put it this way. I think dropping rates at this point right now, or dropping rates too quickly, it's going to increase the gap between it's going to increase the wealth gap between the rich and the poor. That's all I'm going to say, right? If you decrease the interest rate, then obviously, like the joke that I was making, I was like, well, are you ready for a one bedroom to be $1 million? Right? So whoever is already in the game, they're going to get super rich from this if we start dropping rates too quickly. But whoever
mhm.
is trying to get into the market, if we start dropping rates, that is it for their home buying. That's it, because a one bedroom is going to cost $1 million, and there's no way that they're going to be able to afford it. I just want to quickly emphasize that, because I have people literally messaging me saying, it's like, why would you say something like that? Like, that don't you know that people are really suffering? All I'm saying is, if we start aggressively dropping rates, the people that's not in the game yet, it's going to turn even more hopeless.
Of
That's
course.
what I'm
If people are already having trouble saving up for a down payment and the government, what you're doing with like, the FHSA and stuff like that,
Mhm.
they will never be able to buy a home.
Yeah.
And when in conjunction with the crazy immigration that we have right now, it's wild. People are just gonna be continuously overpaying for properties. The people who have money,
Right.
even if you're bringing $1 million or $2 million from your home country into Canada, you're already spending 50% of that off the bat on a one-bedroom condo. How are you gonna have a family?
That's right. Exactly. And I think this is also going to start, if we do aggressively drop the rates, then this is going to ultimately start impacting a lot of different factors of our society. I think immigration actually might be like impacted as well, because at a certain point, it's just like this is way too expensive for people to be living in. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. I was just listening to another podcast. California and New York City, two of the biggest cities, like big apples, best opportunities to make the best amount of money. last year they had 1.2 million people move out of the city
Hmm.
core, right? And I feel like if we don't control this properly, it's not just going to be, oh, like New York and LA. No, I think this is going to be like the whole Canada. Like people are just going to be so sick of it. And because we're already starting to see on Reddit and stuff like that, that people are leaving. Like
Yeah,
they just can't handle Canada anymore.
there is a mass exodus, or there's a lot of people that are moving to Calgary. All my clients that are in Calgary who are relocating to Vancouver, they're like, yeah, I'm getting a great price right now on the sale of my home. People are overpaying all up and down the block and they don't know what they're buying.
Yeah.
And but then they move to Vancouver. I mean, that's a whole nother story, but I'm not want to get into that right now.
Exactly. Now, sorry about that. I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way, just so that we could, I just don't want people to start messaging me and saying that how dare you say something like that. Right?
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, engagement.
Exactly.
Well, why
Yeah.
don't we kind
So
of summarize, what we shared throughout this podcast, and then we'll have some final notes. So it sounds like inventory levels went up, sales activity went down, prices either went up marginally or went down marginally, depending on the product type that you were looking at.
ooh, I
Now,
wouldn't say houses marginally. I think detached houses is
well,
0.8% in a month is quite a bit.
significantly for detached houses.
That's right. That's right.
We always kind of circle back to this point, and we're moving into the winter market pretty quickly here, Joe. What advice would you have to anyone who is maybe sitting on the fence right now and they do want to enter the market to purchase a home?
I mean, I'll put it this way. I think right now is probably the best time should you be once again financially able to do this. And I do
Mhm.
highly recommend for anyone. I know it seems fearful, but for anyone that is thinking about buying, this is probably this until I would say till the end of the year is probably a really, really, really good time to buy. Because first of all, there's way less competition. Number two is you actually get to, because of the less of competition, you get to put some subjects in it. You get to
Mhm.
actually do a proper um, uh, uh, real estate transaction instead of just multiple offer, multiple offer, multiple offer. And third of all, it's going to be a little bit more fun now because there is more inventory out there, right?
Mhm.
So I would say, once again, talk to the bank, talk to make sure that you can afford it. This is what I keep telling people. You can't renegotiate the price of the home that you're buying, but you could renegotiate the rates that you're going to get, because in Canada, our system is that we get to renegotiate our rates every 3 to 5 years, unlike our neighbors to the south when you get to do a mortgage and it's like you're stuck for 30 years, right?
Mhm.
So just remember that point, like, take the advantage that you have right now and, get into the market. And trust me, when it comes down to refinancing 3 or 5 years down the road, it should be something lower than what you're paying right now.
Thank God that you presented the information that way. If you were gonna say marry the house and date the rate, I would have virtually slapped you across this the webcam.
No, no, no. I'm not that textbook. Well, with that being said, I covered the advice for buyers.
Mhm.
Now, because the market is changing a little bit, I'll leave the more difficult question to you. What would you say to your sellers right now?
Okay, now obviously hearing news that there's more inventory on the market than there was before is a little bit concerning, or can be. Let's just put that aside for now, okay? The first thing I would ask them is, what is your plan after selling your home?
Mhm.
If it's to relocate outside of the province, or if you're looking to upsize, then go for it. Just be
Mhm.
reasonable with your pricing and understand that generally speaking, the winter market has a smaller pool of buyers, but at least you are more likely to have a serious buyer if they are looking during that time.
Yeah.
Now, why this is the best time to upsize your home to a detached home, like Joe mentioned, is because of the price drop and sales activity. There's more opportunity to get a good deal with less competition, and you can still have a regular real estate transaction without always running into multiple offers.
Mhm.
Just please, please, please do some proper financial planning so that you are not over leveraging yourself and being forced to sell the property if the interest rates do go up again in the next year.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, I'll add in. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just thinking that another thing that I want to add in for the seller is this is really not the time to be, how do I say this? To act
to trying to outsmart the market by really adamantly wanting a certain price. Just understand that if it's close enough, there is some leeway. Have some leeway. And the reasoning for that is because should the market continue to slow down and you lost this offer because of $5,000 or $10,000, you might regret it, because the next offer, should the market continue to soften, will become lower and lower and lower. Mm-hmm. So don't be so. I have clients that's like, I only want this price. I'm like, okay, but the thing is that I understand that you have a certain budget you need to achieve, but do understand that whatever you're gonna buy next, that price has come down as well. So think about that, maneuver around the total, like the buying and the selling together, consider both of them as one package right now, because honestly, like it would be really, really crappy that you can't move on with your plans just because you're very adamant about that last $5,000 of negotiation. Trust me, you take that $5,000 now, you're most likely going to make it up on the buying side, because should the market continue to weaken, right? Now, to add on, if you're trying to upsize, you really need to let that last $5,000 or $10,000 go, because trust me, you're going to make all that money back plus more on the buying of the house.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Don't be so one-dimensional, sometimes you just got to look at the bigger picture. Don't be so fixated on just like one minute detail, or else you miss out on other opportunities.
Exactly.
One thing I want to add to this podcast, which I don't think we've done before, is maybe a little bit of advice for realtors, because we do have a lot of realtors that listen to our podcast too. It sounds like there's a lot of them that reach out to you and offer you feedback every single time we have a podcast update. So if you are a realtor who joined the industry in the last 5 years and have not experienced a changing market, here are some things that we can suggest that you do to prepare. Number one, ask yourself, where is your business coming from? Is it cold calls? Is it door knocking? Are they open houses? Are they FSBO? Whatever method works out for you, now is the time to double down and keep pushing. The business is out there. You just have to go and take it. Yeah. There's a quote from one of my favorite podcasters I listen to regularly. It really resonates with me. And at the very end of his podcast, he always says, don't wait for the door of opportunity to open. Go kick that damn door down and take what is yours. And I love that, because, opportunity, it doesn't wait. Don't wait for it. You have to go and find it. Number two, what are you doing to keep your business? What systems do you have in place to follow up with your leads and your active clients? Now, are you the name that comes top of mind when people talk about real estate? Because there's 15,000 realtors in the greater Vancouver area. What's the thing that's setting you apart? Are you the kind of agent that disappears off the face of the earth once the deal's closed? Whatever you need to do to stay top of mind, go and do it.
Yeah.
And lastly, ask yourself what you're doing on a daily basis to increase your value for your clients. Is it continuing education? Are you getting coaching? Are you visiting different pre-sale centers so that you are the first person to know about it? There's a lot of different ways that realtors can do to increase your value. What are you doing to make yourself the industry expert that people can look towards? And I think my favorite thing about the real estate industry is that you can do it 10,000 different ways and still achieve the same or similar level of success. I mean, you have your way of doing things. I have my way of doing things, but both of it works for you and for me. So
no,
anything to add, Joe?
No, I have a couple of things to add, but before that though, like, I feel like you're typing this from the bottom of your heart. Like, you're also, as a reminder, that 5-year agent, right? So, no, I like that you're sharing this with a lot of people, because, looking at my social media, it seems like the market has slowed down. A lot of people have gone on vacation again.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, I feel like this whole year, like, a bunch of agents just hasn't worked, because summertime they're taking vacation. Now they're on the vacation again.
Yeah. Aren't you planning another vacation soon?
Well, I have to, there's the important things. I have a wedding to attend, okay? And that's next year. I'm not like, I say I was going to stay put, and I stay put for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
I do agree that, once again, as a reminder, don't fall into what the mass media wants to tell you. The market is not at zero. There's still transactions. Transactions happens every single day. Just go look at the board and you'll see, oh, there's another 300 something sales. Why is it not you? Why is it the other agent, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, this is the third time I'm saying in the podcast, this is a balanced market. A balanced market means it's not the end of the world. It means that there's still deals out there. It's just going to be up to you on whether or not you want to deal with it. Thirdly is, I totally agree with you. Let's say that, okay, you know what? I'm done for the rest of the year. I had a good year or whatever, like whatever excuse that you want to, give to yourself. Then my follow-up question will be, okay, then how are you preparing for 2024? If you're not going to do if you're not going to work in the business for the rest of the year, are you working on the business, right? So like, for example, like you said, are you taking further educations? A lot of people know that, I am, I posted on my social media that because I feel like December, January should be relatively slow. Why not further educate myself? I took out the Harvard negotiation class. That's actually starting next week, right? There's so many other things that you could do. This, if you're just sitting there in front of your computer and you're done with your prospecting, learn about zoning. Like a lot of these things are, YouTube, everything's online nowadays that you could definitely learn. And that's how you're going to create value for yourself, especially if you're planning to be doing this in the long term, because whatever you're learning right now, trust me, when the market was busy like 2021, you don't have an opportunity to sit down and try to learn, right? It's just go, 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 go. So if you can increase your knowledge at this point of time, when the market swings to a seller's market, it's not if, it's just when you're better prepared, right? You're better prepared to maximize that next upswing with the market, because it's going to happen. I can't tell you when, but it's definitely going to happen, because that's just how the cycle works, right? So totally agree. I really like that you added this. I think a lot of realtors definitely need a little kick in the butt right now in regards to their daily activities, because of all these different news and all these like the market is slow. It's so easy right now to find an excuse, to find an out. Hey, and I always say, I'm not perfect. There are days I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything today, right? But discipline, keep it going. Just remember, if you're not working in the business right now, you need to be working on the business. And honestly, when the market is a little bit slower, it is the best time to work on the business, right? Because
I love that.
You have time to sit down and actually, what am I doing? What's next? How am I going to capitalize the market share?
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your 15 plus years of expertise. With that being said, that concludes our market update for October of 2023. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Really helps us grow our YouTube channel, Instagram, and our podcast. My name is Jeff.
And my name is Joe. But before we end, everybody send Jeff a text, because this is probably his last episode for a little bit. But anyways, my name is Joe. Thank you guys for listening. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode, potentially just myself.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
See ya.